So I'd just like to welcome everyone today. I'm Louise Tagliante. I'm your host today, working with Agi, introducing her fabulous new book, Generation Panic. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And for some of you, it's late night, those in New Zealand and Australia. And of course, we've got people coming in from Australia, from America, Europe, and right across Asia. So welcome, thank you for joining us today. Very exciting day as Agi's fabulous book, Generation Panic, is launched. So as a general introduction to the book, I'm actually going to read from the back of the book. I'm going to put it in front of me so you can't see me anymore. Actually, I need to hold it a bit too high, but this will give you a really good idea of what the book's about. And I think it's a lot easier than me trying to make something up at the last, not the last minute, but it's just so concise. So the summary is, it's in bite-sized chapters. Generation Panic is a simple, easy to follow guide that teaches you to take back control and combat your anxiety. With its dip in and out format, Generation Panic is ideal for busy professionals in their 20s and 30s who are not feeling themselves, are out of control, and are struggling to manage their anxiety. So that's a summary of Generation Panic in a nutshell, and I think that does actually summarize it well. So I'm just going to give you a quick look at what we're going to be covering in the short half hour that we're together. So first of all, we're going to be chatting to Agi about why she wrote the book and who's it for. And Agi's also going to be reading a passage from Generation Panic, which to me is always the highlight of a book launch. So I'm really excited about that. And I don't know what she's chosen, so it's going to be a surprise. We're going to then host a Q&A session, and we already have a lot of questions submitted. However, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We look forward to receiving them. We hope that we can get through them in the short period of time we have. And then we'll do a final wrap up at the half hour, 30 minutes in. And for those who'd like to stay on, Agi and I will be on the call for another 30 minutes, and you can pick Agi's brain. You can ask her a lot more in-depth questions that we'll have more time to answer. So let's get moving, Agi. So before you read to us from Generation Panic, I just wanted to ask you about, tell us a bit more about why you wrote the book, and also who's it for and why do they need it?
Thank you, Louise. Thank you. And thank you everyone so much for joining. I'm terrified, excited, a whole kind of concoction of emotions. But to rewind slightly, the reason that I wrote this book is I used to be in financial services recruitment, and on paper, I had everything that I thought was successful, or what I thought I wanted and where I wanted to get to. And I think ultimately under the surface, I wasn't hugely happy, despite being a director and managing teams and earning great money. I was engaged to be married. It was a really exciting time. Yeah, I kind of felt like this swan, like on the surface, nice and, floating along, but underneath I was just paddling like crazy. And ultimately it got to a point where my body took over and I started having panic attacks, which was terrifying. I mean, I had no idea what was happening. I didn't even have the kind of words or terminology to describe it. And I just had such an overwhelming physical experience that I just couldn't rationalize. My head couldn't make sense of it. And so at that time, I was just searching for any help that I could possibly get that meant that I wouldn't have to tell anyone that I was struggling so much. So I searched high and low for anything and everything you can possibly think of to make me feel good again, quite simply, like to make me feel myself, to make me get back on track. And in short, I just couldn't find it. It was like little tidbits from here or something from there. I'd read 350 pages on one technique, or I'd read like a paper on it, but it was just a kind of theory or someone who didn't really have experience of it. And so that's almost where Generation Panic was, not at that moment. I mean, I was in a meltdown, but a little bit later, Generation Panic was born because I ultimately wrote it for myself. I wanted something that I could return to again and again. So every time that I felt on the back foot in some way, which happens, that's life, that I had really simple tools that I could use, that I could have at my fingertips. So that's a bit of a background.
Absolutely amazing, Agi. And when you consider, what you suffered through in those earlier years and what people are suffering through now, I can't think of a more relevant time to launch Generation Panic. So without
completely agree.
Yeah, so really timely, and I know we're all going to get a lot out of it. And like you, go back to it to use the different tools on a regular basis as we need them. Without further ado, Agi, I invite you to share with us the passage you've chosen from Generation Panic.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
So here it is. It's a real book, everybody. It'll be with you soon, hopefully. So I really ummed and ahed over which piece, passage, tip, or whatever to read to you. And hopefully it's a good thing, because I'm completely biased and think that they're all relevant at different moments. So what I've done is I've kind of almost cobbled together a little bit from one chapter so that it gets a kind of a flavor of how the book is structured. And so in this piece, it has 3 tips or techniques, and then a little bit about my experience. And so what I encourage you to do is maybe think of a challenge that you're going through currently, whether that's something in relation to work or a relationship, or with the ongoing pandemic, just some sort of challenge, so that you can hang what we're discussing onto it. Or maybe it's something you can watch the recording back and revisit it at a later date. So this chapter is called Fresh Perspectives, and each chapter starts with a quote. And this one is by Paulo Coelho, which says that impossible is just an option. Finding a new way to view any problem can alleviate the associated pressure. By changing our perspective, we are reminded that we have choices and can decide on the direction we want to take. The fog begins to lift as we step away from our immediate situation and get a fresh perspective on it. We can begin to see clearly again and think rationally. Consequently, our anxiety starts to subside, and we take back control of our bodies and thoughts. So tip 1, shake it up. Try standing in the shoes of other people who can offer you some pearls of wisdom. Pick any of the following, or anyone else who springs to mind that you think might have an interesting perspective. Your 3-year-old self, your 80-year-old self, an actor or actress you admire, a politician you respect, a family member, or your favorite singer. Now move to a new space on the floor and literally step into this person. Then ask yourself out loud, how would they stand? What would they be saying? Or what would they be wearing? What would their voice sound like? What advice would they offer? And what can I learn from this new perspective? Now repeat it, trying out other voices and see how they differ. Breathe deep and enjoy listening to this new advice. Consider what you want to implement. Tip 2, run a film. This is a great exercise when you feel overwhelmed. It gives you the chance to be a fly on the wall and look at the situation from a safe distance. So pull up the situation and run a movie in your mind's eye. Then imagine you are twiddling with the remote and can change things to what you want. Put it in black and white, make it softer or louder, closer or further away, or pop it on pause. You have the power, you have control. Change the way you're seeing the situation to alter how you're reacting and coping. Tip 3, go up high. Imagine that you are in a helicopter, or that you are a bird soaring high above, and get some distance from your current situation. Notice what changes when you put space between you and what's going on. What does being up high give you? How does it shift your perspective? What can you see from up here? And what else can you learn? So my experience. Anxiety makes me feel as though I'm trapped and glued to the spot. I can't think clearly, and all I can see is the anxiety. By changing my perspective and using these techniques, I become unstuck and can breathe again. In fact, I use the action points on rotation, depending on whichever is going to suit me best in each moment. 1 minute, I pretend I'm a little toddler version of Agi, and the next minute, I imagine I'm a famous actress. My fail-safe, which works a treat, is flying up high as a bird to get some distance and perspective on my situation. I have to remind myself to quieten the saboteur's voice, saying it's a stupid game and I look like a total idiot. Once I have bypassed these opinions and step into their bodies, into how they would truly think and act, it is enlightening. More often than not, my anxiety ebbs away. So go for it. Have fun with this one. See your stuck areas from a fresh perspective and realize you have choices on how you wish to respond.
Wow, Agi, really powerful piece. All your coaching experience and your NLPs coming out in that, which is very much about who you are. So yeah, looking at unusual strategies and ways to get your head into a completely different space is what I heard. So thank you very much for sharing that. And if that's just a small nugget of the book, imagine what else is in there to help us at these challenging times. So as I said, one of the most exciting things about a book launch for Generation Panic is hearing from the author, Agi Heale. For those of you who have questions for Agi, please put them into the chat. We do have some questions that have been sent in ahead of time. Some very enthusiastic people have sent in some great questions. So please do ask in chat and we'll open up the floor. And actually, I'll ask you the first question as we're waiting for people to put it into chat. So Agi, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, I think this is different for most people. What happens to you when you're anxious? Because I think it'll be very different for everyone on the call today.
So for me, my anxiety, even today, can start off quite small. It might be like I get a really bad night's sleep, or things just feel like a little shorter. You know, that feeling when your breath becomes a little bit higher, right up in your chest, rather than deep belly breathing that's nice and free. Everything just feels a bit tighter. My shoulders go up. But then when I get into a real, well, historically, I haven't had a panic attack since back in 2014, using these amazing tips that have come together in Generation Panic. But when I did, I remember feeling completely and utterly out of control. And for someone who likes to be in control, that was a horrendous place to be. So it was almost as though my body just took over. My palms were sweating, my heart rate went through the roof. I lost all rational thought, just went completely and utterly blank. And for me, I just really struggled to make simple decisions. I mean, things that are so obvious or things that shouldn't have been a big deal became absolutely monumental. So even seeing some of my best friends for a dinner just became too overwhelming. It became too much. But yes, all physical, completely.
Wow. I guess I often wonder when people are having anxiety attacks if they're actually having a heart attack as well, because that's where I started.
Yeah, no, I've heard that. A lot of people have said actually they've gone to A&E or they feel like completely like something is horribly wrong, rather than actually it's just a physical response. You know, the fight or flight response is just this concoction of hormones that get released to ultimately keep us safe. It's a good thing. It's from the cavemen that they would either, you know, if they had a saber-toothed tiger in front of them, they would either be able to fight it or flee to safety. But the problem is that, I mean, for me, there was no there was no tiger in front of me, but I just was, my body and my mind was processing it as though there was a threat. And so my body was just trying to protect me. Quite clever, really, you know, if we're going to give our bodies some credit.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because I think that's interesting differentiation between the two. I'm very interested in the title, because I was chatting to a friend last night, telling her that I was working with you today on this, how excited I was. And she said, oh, what a great name. So what does the name, what's the title all about? What does it mean?
So for me, Generation Panic are a group of really ambitious, driven, high achieving, awesome individuals kind of rising up through the ranks, and are usually doing pretty well. They've usually got their stuff put together, but actually behind it, they might well be struggling with anxiety in some way, or have a big dollop that might knock them sideways. However, do you know what's so interesting? So the book and the title were obviously, this was a couple of years ago that I wrote it, and came up with a title that for me felt so defined, that I was part of Generation Panic, and I felt as though I was kind of on that hamster wheel of trying to keep up and being like, oh my God, why has everyone else got everything sorted? And I'm the only one who's struggling. Like, what on earth is going on? But actually, over the past 18 months, with everything that's been going on, I really feel, to Lisa's question earlier, you know, is it all relevant for other people? You know, I'm biased, but I think the tools are so applicable to everyone, and particularly at the moment with what's going on.
Yeah, that's interesting, because somebody's asked you a question around whether the book's suitable for teenagers, and I would imagine from what you just said, yes, it would be very suitable, but I'll let you answer that. It's not my question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, looking back, if I had had more of these tools at this stage, then I would have, at that age or at that stage, I probably would have been better prepared to know what was even going on, or even just understand it, or have the terminology for it, as opposed to feeling like completely blindsided, like what the hell is happening? So yes, an education, absolutely.
You've got I mean, from what I've read so far, yes, suitable for everyone. A couple of questions that are similar around, is there a fine line between anxiety and burnout? And, you know, difference between stress and anxiety. It probably, you know, we say we're stressed all the time, and we don't necessarily say we're suffering from anxiety. So any pearls of wisdom there?
So I personally would say that stress and anxiety is pretty similar. And in terms of burnout, there's there's a Yerkes-Dodson curve that goes up. It talks about going to peak performance, and if you have the right level of anxiety, it kind of takes you right to the very top. But actually, when it tips over and goes into overdrive, that's when you hit burnout. And I think that's ultimately, in many ways, where I was when I was having the panic attacks, that I was completely and utterly burnt out, and I just didn't know where to turn to. But it's, you know, it's a thing that's coming up again and again. Companies are talking about it nonstop, that their staff are burnt out, they're anxious, they're stressed. I think whatever the word that they use, it's all in the same space. It's people not being able to handle the change, the out of controlness that we might face in life, the challenges that are no doubt going to come. That's the one change that we can guarantee, you know, change is the one thing we can guarantee. So yeah, how can anyone, leaders, families, teenagers, all handle that?
Thank you. We are with questions here. I'm very mindful of the time. The one question that is coming up is, you know, what would you say your top 3 tips are for managing anxiety?
Buy the book, obviously. tip 1, get online and order it. Completely biased, but for me, probably the two other things that have been a huge help for myself is not firstly learning how to breathe properly, because as I was saying earlier, it was just also high, and that in itself sends messages to your brain that you're not okay, and that in turn kind of kicks off a spiral. And also just having an awareness of your body, because now I'm much clearer about when I'm starting to feel anxious and what's happening, and rather than going, oh God, no, I don't have time for that, or I'm just going to plow on with the next thing, I'm more prepared to kind of acknowledge it. I think we're all living in a very heady world, and we all kind of live up here, and actually we need to kind of reconnect with the body that's carrying us around a little bit.
Yeah, I found that breath work very, very useful, and they do a lot with mindfulness as well.
Yes.
There's an interesting question here. I know we're running out of time for those who are leaving, and I want to get to the last piece before they leave, and then we can continue with the questions. But one that struck me is there is a connection with anxiety and depression, and I think that's the reason I think that's an interesting question. Is there are so many people out there at the moment that are suffering from depression, especially young teenagers who just aren't coping at all. Is there a connection between the two? Doctor.
I was just about to say, I am not a doctor, and I feel like that is out of my field of expertise. For me, depression is, I almost think of it as physically, you know, like I think of depression as being physically hunched over. You know, if you see someone who's feeling that low, you can usually see it in their body. Whereas for me, someone who's anxious is more like upright, but just so tight and so kind of sprung up like a, you know, like a champagne cork or something about to blow. And for me, that's the main difference. But I personally think, from how I think of anxiety, is that it's a worry or a concern usually about something that's upcoming, whereas I've heard that depression is potentially looking back a little bit more. But yeah, I'm no doctor, just to be clear.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Dr. Agi, maybe that's the new path.
Yeah, Dr. Agi Heale. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Agi, we do have a lot more questions, but I'm conscious of the time for those who have to depart. So tell us, where can we find Generation Panic?
You can find it everywhere. Well, in the modern times, pretty much everywhere. So all the places you can possibly imagine, like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Waterstones. I've done an audiobook if you want to listen to me as you wander around a nice park or something. So all available for pre-order, and not pre-order, now order. I'm so used to saying pre-order. Now you can really order it. And yes, so all available online, and would love everyone's support to buy a copy, tell your friends about it. There've been over 100 people on this call, which is mind-blowing in itself. Thank you so much. But if all those 100 people texted 10 people with, you've got to read this or try and share it on social media, it'd be completely life-changing for so many people. And so yes, I need your help. This is a call to action. Please help me spread the word and get this to the people who I think can benefit so hugely and don't need to feel as shitty as they are at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Gifting this book as well, I think, would be very useful. So for those of you who've got birthdays coming up, or you just want to give a special gift to someone, I think this is an ideal, I know it's an ideal book to share and to gift to others. So Agi, would you like to close off?
Yes, I would love to. So for those who are leaving, thank you so much. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, it means so much. I feel quite emotional, but it really means a lot. This is, I feel very, hold on. It's very overwhelming to have this support. Yeah, exactly. Breathe. I probably forgot to breathe in that moment. That's a kind of big reminder. But I've written down thank you, so I hopefully wouldn't forget someone. But Louise and Gemma, who are helping me support this call, thank you so much. I feel very supported. Oh, right. John Hunt Publishing, he took a chance on me. Mike Mann, who introduced me, Christina Roth, who was my editor, Millie Baring, who did all the amazing illustrations, the endorsements, Rob Balmer, Alice McIntosh, David Pendleton, Rachel Kelly, Ian McDermott, Karen Kimsey House, and Charlie Watson. Thank you so much. Everyone on this call, I've trained with you, I've coached you, you've coached me, I've worked with you. There's friends and family. My husband Gotham, amazing. The kids who are wonderful. And you've just all had such a huge impact on Generation Panic. You've contributed in more ways than you can imagine. So thank you.
Agi, thank you. And crying is infectious, so a few of us might start. We might join you. But yeah, fantastic day for you. For those of you who could only join us for the first part, we've come to the end of the main launch. I really want to thank you all for the fabulous comments you've left in chat. And I know that Agi will spend quite a bit of time.
Yes, thank you.
Those later when she's got more time, because there were about 105 people on the call, which is amazing. Thank you so much for spending time with us today and hearing more about Generation Panic. We encourage you to get out there and buy the book, provide reviews, and to encourage your friends to read it as well. It'll make a huge difference. So thanks for joining the call.
Thank you so much, everybody. Sorry, it's just such an important moment, and everyone on this call has, even if they don't even realize it, has had a say in this book and have directed me in some way. So thank you. Oh, I feel better, like release. Look, that's a champagne cork. When you don't let it off, it just too much.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to those who are leaving us. For those who'd like to stay on the call, Agi and I will be here. We'll cry a little bit more and answer some more questions.
Hopefully not too much more crying. I feel like I've got it out now. I've said it's just a thank you. It's because all these people are so important and have supported me. They probably don't even realize. So yeah, from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Well, your book's a big support for everyone else, Agi. So thank you for writing it, taking the time, and producing such a simple and easy guide to follow.
Thanks, Louise. Oh, right, onwards. Questions.
So somebody did ask you a question, and I don't know if they're still on the call. It was about trying to write a book and having children.
Oh gosh, yeah. So to give you a background of my writing process, so I obviously I resigned then from my financial services role about a year after. So I was much, as mentioned, I was engaged to be married, and I thought maybe that was what was tipping me over the edge. And I think ultimately I got to the other side of that and thought, actually, this is not really where I want to be long term, and how can I find something that's going to be more fulfilling? And I started writing after I'd resigned, so back in 2015. And the first draft was so easy. It just kind of spilled out. It was like I was bursting with all this information, all of these incredible tips, and I just couldn't hold myself back. So the first draft was super easy. And then after that, I just got in my own way. There was so much procrastination and what I was worried about and getting it out there. And I finally got to this point where I thought, this is amazing that I have this resource, but if there's one person out there who is feeling as awful as I did, like, shame on me if I can't make it available for them. And I just firmly believe that it's a lack of knowledge to feel happier and healthier and better, and Generation Panic provides that. So it really became this kind of like calling card, or I don't know, this like mission to try and get it into the hands of those people who just, there's an easier way and it's possible for them.
Yeah, I know it's a big undertaking. One of my closest friends is an author, and she also has a couple of kids. So
oh yeah, so I didn't even mention the kids part. So I'd written the bulk of it before I had children, and and yes, it's a good reminder. But when I was still kind of going over it, and then also the process since of trying to find an agent, a publisher, considering self-publishing and that route, that was all with kids. And I mean, just like any parent, we kind of get on with it. I don't know, it felt more important to get it out there, and that was more of a driver for me. Yeah, this is for the kids, really. I mean, that's it. If they're happy and anxious free, or have a better relationship to anxiety, then my job is done.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I know so many different people will benefit from it. It'd be interesting to see what your children think of it when they get older and appreciate.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's so funny, just to bring it, we were putting them to bed early bedtime tonight before the call. And I just said, I'm going to tell you about this day. You know, they have no idea. They're still so young, but I'm going to tell them about this day. And that's very, very cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know they'll be really proud of you, just like we are.
Thanks, Louise.
So there are lots of other questions in here, and I'm just trying to keep up with them. But Lara just sent through a question on, do you think you'll write another book?
Oh, I have a couple of ideas, but I mean, for now, I think I just need to take a breather and pause. Actually, one of the chapters in the book is about celebrating and not just rushing on to the next thing and the next exciting endeavor, but just decompressing and yeah, looking at all I've done. I'm really proud.
As you should be. There's a question that's come up from Gabriel Cox, and I'm not surprised by this question. You know, have you got tips for young adults trying to get into the world of coaching? You know, because when the piece you read was, and for those who don't know, I'm also a leadership coach. I've been trained in NLP as well, and that's all I could hear during your reading. But you know, what path did you take from financial services to coaching, and what type of coaching do you offer? So slightly off the book, but it's still relevant because your coaching experience is a huge part of this book.
I completely agree. So my coaching experience, both receiving it and also hello to Caroline and Shan, who have been amazing in the past, and other coaches that I've had along the way. And I completely forgotten the question. Completely forgotten it.
Moving from financial services into coaching.
Oh yes. So for me, so after I resigned, and I was like, right, what on earth am I going to do? What's going to make me happy? And I tried everything you can possibly think of, from like yoga to financial statements, ceramics, coding. Gautam and I went motorbiking across the Himalayas, and one of the courses that we did was coaching for business with City University, and it was always a really miserable Tuesday night, and I would sit there as dreary, rain up against the window, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. This I can't believe that this has been here and I didn't know about it. And so I then went on and trained with CTI, the Coaches Training Institute, and also on the NLP side, as you know, with international training seminars, who incidentally, I'm currently going through their master practitioner course as well. And all of these things have played such an impact into Generation Panic, because I learned so much. There was so much juice and goodness and all these pearls of wisdom that came into that. And so for me, the transition over into coaching was a very obvious one in the end. I was, you know, this just totally fired me up. It made me feel completely lit up, and I was like, this is amazing. I get to do that. I get to get paid for this. And hopefully some clients, old and new and current, who are on the call will feel that. So yes, I mean, just go and try it out, or get a coach, go and do a course. I'm happy to have a call with anyone. Yeah. And now I work with leaders, rising talent to feel great, like to be operating at their best, to be operating at the highest level, be more effective. And I absolutely love it. I feel very, very fortunate to have found something that I enjoy so much.
Yes, I think you've truly found your purpose in life. It's amazing. It's a great thing to find. I'm trying to honour all the questions that were asked in the chat, so I've been working my way through them. So if I've missed your question, you're still on the call, my apologies. Please do, well, there's another message just come through that says thank you. I do have some other questions that came in earlier. You know, when I look at the book, it's, you know, it's small print. There's so much information packed into it. So how would I get the most out of reading this book? What would be your advice on how to tackle the book?
So for me, so every chapter follows the same format, that it gives kind of, it starts with a quote and then there's an overview or a snapshot. Then why is it important to Generation Panic? A number of tips, and then my experience and like a follow-up. So 2 ways, or actually, I mean, there's many ways. You can read it from back to front if you really like, but the 2 main ways that I think you could read it are there's 44 chapters, and you can either just flip through and go, right, that chapter seems of interest, or that's speaking to me the most, and that's where I'm going to start. And particularly if you're feeling incredibly anxious, you won't have the headspace to read an entire book. You're just going to want to dip in, get a really super easy technique that you can apply and feel the effect of in a positive way, and then revisit at a later date. But what I strongly advise is that in time, everyone go back through and read from start to finish, that they actually read every chapter, because even if you think, oh no, this isn't really relevant, or maybe this doesn't speak to me as much, there will still be something in there that is, again, I'm so biased, but I mean, there's going to be something in there that you're going to learn and might get you to think about something different or flip things on its head, or I don't know, just, so yes, 2 main ways: read it from start to finish or dip in and out. I think that's, sorry, just to continue, I think that's the real beauty of the book, is that you can dip in and out a bit, and it really is a resource book that you can return to again and again, so that, you know, the amount of times I even pick it up, even now, so even today I was having a flick through and I was like, oh yeah, how could I forget that? You know, that's going to be so relevant for me tonight. So my hope, my dream is that I'll walk into people's homes and they'll just have this sat by the loo or by their bed, and it's going to be well thumbed and completely, you know, scribbled in all the sides and sticky notes out of it all. But everyone just finds whichever tool that works for them, and yeah, brings it all together.
Thanks for that, Agi. It sounds like there's something in there for everyone, and no matter how your anxiety turns up.
Yes.
You've been asked a very interesting question by Izzy. No, Izzy?
Yes.
Great.
Issy,
yes, because I'm having problems pronouncing the surname. My apologies. He or a she?
He. Dr. Issy. Actually, we should have asked about Dr. Issy on the depression question. But yes, sorry, Dr. Issy.
Hi, Dr. Issy. Thanks for the question. So he wants to know when the TEDx lecture series is going to kick off.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I can't even get through this call without crying. Issy was at our wedding as well, and I couldn't make it through that without crying. So I think I would have to have, I don't know. But yes, I mean, live and hope. I think I need to read this book. Was such a goal for me and such a huge mountain, and I feel like I'm at the peak of it, and I just kind of want to enjoy it, but maybe I need to search around for the next thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
Watch this space.
Yeah, just enjoy the celebrations for the moment.
Exactly.
Undertaking. So one question this comes from me. You know, writing a book like this is huge. The research you've done, the references I've seen in there, I thought, wow, this is a lifetime's undertaking. And it's your first book. So what surprised you the most about putting this together?
What surprised me? That's a great question. That things change. So I historically have used a technique and it's worked for me like a dream and it's really helped. But then I'll be faced with a new situation and I realize actually I need something else. And so the realization that I have something that I can return to, which has, again, bias, but everything in one place that you could possibly need to feel better in the face of anxiety, is just so powerful. I explained it the other day to someone as though it's almost like the reader is a pizza chef. And, you know, one day you might like a Hawaiian and the next day you like a pepperoni. But being able to decide and pick and choose and pick and mix and say, oh, does that taste good? Does that work for me? Or actually, no, that doesn't help, or that does, you know, and having the flexibility to go back and reassess and revisit is probably the biggest takeaway that I've taken away from it.
Thanks for sharing that, Agi. It sounds like a really powerful journey you've been on as well.
Yeah, it has been.
So Dominic's asking you how important is meditation in managing anxiety? Is there a comment on that in the book?
Absolutely. So there is a chapter on meditation and mindfulness, and Dom talks to a really interesting point, because when I was struggling with anxiety, the amount of people who said to me, oh, just do a bit of meditation or try out a bit of headspace. And I used to sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to get into my headspace. And then my mind would just be running at a gazillion miles an hour. And I think, I just don't get this. And so almost going back to what we said before, that is one tool in the toolbox. That is one chapter out of 44 different ones that you can try. So it's merely it, you know, for Dom, that might be the best thing that he can possibly do. That might be the most important tool in his toolkit to manage anxiety. But for Louise, you might want to do the fresh perspectives one, or you might want to do a breathing one, or Adrian might want to do a one on, I don't know, so everyone, it's that pick and mix again, it's that kind of pizza. But yes, meditation is important for people.
Yeah, I can't meditate for whatever reason. And I was talking to a girlfriend on the weekend. She's doing a program at SMU here in Singapore around mindfulness, and her instructor was trying to get her to focus on her big toe. The two of us are sitting there having coffee, focusing on her big toe, going, are we meditating now?
Exactly. However, I don't want to belittle it, because for some people it's a complete game changer, and it can really impact their relationship to anxiety in a very positive way. And then great, do more of it, bring it, you know, amp it up, make it if it's an 8 out of 10, make it a 10 out of 10. But if you're someone who maybe that doesn't feel like the most easy thing to start with, then try something else and see where you get to. Try a different chapter in the book.
Yeah, and that's great advice. You know, I've just decided I'm meditation, either I just don't get it, or it's not where I need to go. But anyway, is it Gautam? Gautam Chatter?
Gautam, yeah, Gautam, my husband.
Gautam, thanks, Gautam.
Due to COVID, you've never actually met, sadly, despite being in the same. I know.
It'll be over soon.
Yeah. Let's live in hope.
So Gautam wants to know about the importance of breathing properly, which is a great question, because it's I don't think people realise just how important it is.
It is probably the most crucial, in my opinion, the most valuable tool out of the entire book, because every single place you go, surprise, surprise, your breath comes with you. And so if you're in a meeting, for example, and you're not able to jump into a meditation, breathing is the easiest way that you can control how you're feeling. And so even for me tonight, when I was going, oh my God, the call is starting in 15 minutes, I was just taking a moment, because that's the one way that I can, when I really push air right down into my tummy, full deep belly breathing into all of those kind of dark places, the pits, the caves of your stomach, and get fresh, new, clean air into it. It's almost like your breathing is the captain of a ship, and the captain of the ship will decide on the direction, the pace, the rhythm. And if your captain is out of control, the rest of your body will follow suit. Whereas if you can get your captain, as in your heart, under control and breathe, it will then inform the rest of your body, like, I'm okay, and I'm going to be all right, and I can handle this. And actually that message of just like, I can handle this is such an important one, and can be done so simply with breathing. So yes, breathing, very important. Thanks, Gautam.
Thanks. Yes, I can only echo that, because that's what I do when I have to speak in public.
Exactly.
Breathe deep, breathe deep. We've probably got time for one more question. Oh, Susie's asked one, so we'll focus on the one Susie got. I had one about the illustrations that I thought was kind of interesting, because they're very cute. So Susie's question is, any tips on how to encourage someone who isn't recognising their anxiety, to encourage them to read Generation Panic?
Well, I would probably, great question, Suze. I would say to start with just giving them a copy and saying, oh my God, I've just read this book. It's brilliant. I took loads away from it. Why don't you check it out and see what's going on? Because ultimately, if someone had given me this book in mid-2013, before these panic attacks in 2014, I might not have been in the full-blown panic, but I would have then been able to have the tools and be equipped enough to handle it. So I don't know, I'm biased, just get it in front of them, and also call the elephant out in the room. As those close to me will know, I'll always say what I think. And so if I see someone, I might be like, oh, you sound a bit anxious, or how can I help you with that, or what's going on, or tell me what's, I don't know, just call the elephant out.
Yeah, a lot of people need a lot of support right now. So yeah, a good friend, Susie's going to look after them and get them a copy of Generation Panic.
And just on that point, good friend, that's what it's really about. When I was going through this, I felt incredibly lonely and embarrassed to say to any of my friends what was going on. But actually now, as I talk about it openly, and this is a topic of conversation that I kind of shout from the rooftops, it's amazing how many people also struggle with this. And so rather than thinking everyone else is sorted, you realize you've got solidarity and deep friendships and honest conversations that are about what's really important. One of the chapters is you are not alone, and that is a huge part of this anxiety space. You really are not alone. Like, wherever you are, be that friend to go and help the person who doesn't understand, or be that person who reaches out to the person who's struggling.
Yeah, excellent advice, Agi. So many people feel totally isolated right now, and there doesn't seem to be any positive or big answers ahead of us. So it may continue. So great advice. Yeah, we all need to keep in touch with everyone to make sure everyone's okay and support them. So we've got 5 minutes left, Agi. How would you best like to use that time?
Oh, I don't know. I think I'm good to go.
There's one question from Simon Hill.
That's my dad.
Yeah.
Hi, Beads.
Lovely question.
Great question.
Well, family were a huge support to, they were the only ones who knew what was going on. And actually they were, my mum in particular was the one who said, I think this is what is happening to you. I didn't even have the words. I didn't have the terminology. And so my family were absolutely everything. And they were complete, it sounds melodramatic, but they saved me. They got me out of where I was. And this book is, a culmination of being pulled out of there, out of that dark space.
Wow, very lucky, very lucky. So, Agi, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you today, and feel incredibly honoured to be hosting, and just delighted with the response you've received so far. And you know, this is a shout out to everyone. I know you will continue to support Agi with Generation Panic. You know, getting your copy. I feel very, very honoured to have mine specially delivered today. And you know, don't forget about the power of recommendations. Yes, don't forget about the power of recommendations. Posting on social media as much as you can. Provide ratings, online reviews, honest reviews. You know, and as we've seen from Agi tonight, you know, what comes from the heart from reading this book and sharing a lot of that, those valuable tips and advice. So we can make a difference in someone's world by supporting them, helping them by providing a copy of the book as well. And Lara Quee says to listen to Agi on the Coach Potatoes podcast. Is that yours, Laura? Lara.
It is, yeah, Lara had very kindly had me on her podcast.
Brilliant.
And I've done a number of podcasts and interviews recently, so do check them out. Or if you have anyone who has a podcast or wants to do an interview or is a journalist, I mean, I'll do anything. I'm on such a drive to get this out there. So I'm so great. Even the smallest thing that for you feels inconsequential or silly to do is having the most profound impact. And so thank you everyone for already buying and already sharing. And yeah, long may it continue. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you even for your time tonight. Yeah, thank you.
Just before you go, Gabriel's asking, how can we get in touch with you?
So do follow me on, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram at Agi Heale, so that's AGI and then Heale, HEALE. The website is www.generationpanic.com, and you have my email from the event tonight, so please do reach out. I'm happy to do anything, and yeah, spread the word. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. So Agi's very easy to get hold of.
Yeah. You'll find me.
Good luck with Generation Panic, Agi. It's an amazing achievement, and I know it's going to go on to help a lot of people. It's going to benefit a lot of people, and we're here to support you and to get the word out as well. So congratulations. As I said, an amazing achievement, and enjoy the fun times now, and relax and soak up all this love that everyone's sending you through this horrible virtual environment we now live in. But you wouldn't have been able to connect with so many people tonight. So thank you everyone for joining in and for supporting Agi and her book Generation Panic, and been a pleasure working with you all. And Agi, I'll hand it over to you for the final word.
Yes, so just one final word is apparently some of the websites have sold out, but they will be restocking, so please keep ordering and it will find its way to you in time. But honestly, yeah, thank you so much for all dialing in and spending your time here tonight, this morning, today, wherever you are in the world. The beauty of the pandemic is that we have a truly global book launch, and oh, I'm so happy. Thank you.
Go and enjoy, Agi. Pop that.
Yeah, go have some champagne. Oh gosh, stiff gin and tonic, I think. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Louise, as well, and Gemma for helping me host tonight. Couldn't have done it without you. Oh, and breathe. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye.